All right, I got 6. Cool. Good afternoon, everyone. It is January 28th at 1:37 p.m. Thank you for coming to today's City Planning Commission meeting. First, we'll get started by reading the formal public hearing rules, followed by adoption of minutes and then regular business. Before we get started, we will call roll. So, Commissioner Johnson, Commissioner Joshi Gupta,
Present.
Commissioner Flick,
Present.
Commissioner Jordan, present. Commissioner Steig.
Here.
Commissioner Stewart.
Present.
So the formal public hearing rules reads as follows. The City Planning Commission has established certain rules governing the procedures to be followed at public hearings. Before speaking, each person shall give their name, address, and state whom he or she is representing. Proponents for the proposal will speak first for a period of 10 minutes. Each speaker shall be allowed a maximum of 2 minutes each. Opponents or other interested parties will speak second for a period of 15 minutes. Each speaker shall be allowed a maximum of 2 minutes each. Proponents will be allowed a period of 6 minutes total for rebuttal. Each speaker shall be allowed a maximum of 2 minutes. Opponents will not be allowed to rebut. No material, including written matter, photographs, maps, and other items, will be accepted by the Commission or its staff at any time during this public hearing. This procedure shall be followed except at such a time when the presiding officer shall, with the approval of the Commission members present, extend such time. And with that said, we will start with the adoption of meeting minutes from January 14th meeting.
Commissioner Flick will make a motion for approval of the meeting minutes.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion from Commissioner Flick for approval, seconded by Commissioner Johnson. If there's no discussion, we will vote our machines in a second. And the meeting minutes are adopted. The first item of business is zoning docket item 00325.
Zoning docket 325 is a request for a zoning change from an HURM2 Historic Urban Multifamily Residential District to an HUB1 Historic Urban Neighborhood Business District. The property is located at 1238 Magnolia Street. This site has been vacant since at least 1994, and the proposed zoning would allow the construction of a carry-out restaurant at the site, which is neighborhood serving retail and would contribute to the walkability of the surrounding neighborhood. However, the proposal would also create a spot zone, which is not compatible with the historic non-conforming use policy and does not comply with the place designations of this ordinance. Therefore, staff recommends denial of this request.
Okay, we have 2 comment cards, one from the applicant, Jane Howard, with time ceded by Angelia Dix, so you have a total of 4 minutes.
All right, thank you. As you noted, I'd like to build a walk-up food establishment on the lot at 1238 Magnolia Street. The staff report recognized the benefits to the community, finding only the guidelines of the master plan in opposition. So I would like to present some standards here to consider. Standard 1, consistency with the master plan. One of the core questions of the master plan set out to answer was how do we provide predictable land use and zoning guidelines that both preserve the city's historic character and encourage new development and economic growth, meeting the needs of developers and neighborhoods alike. The historic character of this neighborhood, even according to the staff's denial report, included not just businesses, but even businesses of this type. Allowing this zone change would preserve the historic character of the neighborhood and allow for an economic growth to a neighborhood in sorely need of it. The city plan intends to create walkable, mixed-use corridors and commercial centers to serve neighborhoods. This proposal does that. The master plan intends to create a green city. Currently, the only food opportunities in this area are food trucks running on portable generators that are extremely pollutant and whose pollutants tend to hang at living heights. In Chapter 2, Paragraph 9, in Volume 2, Chapter 9, Paragraph 7.A2, the master plan is called to support the development of new entrepreneurial ventures and to sustain and grow the city's small and micro business base. Specifically, the master plan says that it should work with developers to identify appropriate buildings and sites, provide information about existing financial incentives, and assist with incentive application processes and local regulatory approvals, and review, if necessary, appropriate proposed revisions to land use regulations and building codes that unnecessarily inhibit development of such projects. Standard 2, compatibility with surrounding areas. The subject property is on a block face entirely of commercial buildings across the street from 2 other blocks of commercial buildings, the most substantial one being the Home Depot. Standard 3, minimal spot zoning. Just across the street from the property is PD02-02, a zone which is for mixed use or medium-high density. Extending to this one property would not create an isolated spot of mixed zoning. It would minimally extend the zone PD02-02, creating a contiguous zone. Furthermore, the building next door is a warehouse, and the lot next door to that is a storage for shipping containers. The lot diagonally across the street from the subject lot is an equipment storage facility of about 3 lots. The block that the subject property is on is already de facto mixed use. Standard 4, neighborhood need and character. This zoning change application meets both the needs and character of the neighborhood. Now I'd like to comment a little bit on the human side. I purchased the lot from a 4th-generation owners whose great-grandmother, an Italian immigrant, once ran a corner store on that lot. The immediate area, while zoned residential, has had only one new home built in many decades. All the other existing homes are closer to a century old. The cost of building exceeds the value which can be sustained by rents in this neighborhood. There are only 3 homes standing on the entire square. All of the other lots are empty, save for one small church and a warehouse. There is a large mixed-income neighborhood development a few blocks over. Many families with children live there. Aside from a few corner stores of dubious character, there are no businesses which serve this community. I envision a landscape sitting area with picnic tables and umbrellas, shade trees and flower beds. Neighborhood families will be able to stop by on hot afternoons for ice cream and snowballs. The numerous Home Depot customers presently buying lunch at a food truck can have a spot where they can wash their hands and sit in the shade away from the roar and fumes of generators.
Ms. Howard, that's your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. We have no more comment cards in support. Are there any questions for the applicant or staff?
Are there any cards in opposition?
There are no cards in opposition.
So, do I understand correctly that this particular building does have a history of commercial use? Did I hear you say that earlier?
Commercial zoning. We couldn't verify commercial use because
Okay.
It's been vacant since '94.
Okay.
There is no building standing on the lot presently.
Oh, okay. So I have a motion.
Yes.
So I think staff came to the correct conclusion based on what staff had to deal with. But that was one of the most cogent presentations I've heard in a really long time.
Thank you.
And I think the merits of the project, staff was constrained by what staff had to do, but I think it's a worthwhile project and a reasonable zoning, especially in light of the commercial properties nearby, as you've cited. So I'm going to, my motion is for approval. Are there provisos included in the report that if we were to, oh, no, it's a zoning change. So I move for approval of the zoning change.
I second.
Is there any further discussion? So we have a motion against staff recommendation for approval by Commissioner Steeg, seconded by Commissioner Joshi Gupta. If there's no further discussion, we will vote our machines. Okay. And Commissioner, yep, you're good. Okay, and the zoning docket has been approved. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Next is zoning docket item 00425.
Zoning docket 00425 is a request for a zoning change from an SRS Suburban Single Family Residential District to an SRD Suburban Two Family Residential District. The subject property consists of two contiguous lots of record that are currently vacant. The applicant proposes to develop each lot with two-family residences, a use that is not permitted within the site's current SRS zoning, which only allows for single-family residential development. The proposed zoning change from SRD to SRD would result in a spot zone and is not consistent with the master plan FLUM designation, which designates this property for single-family residential development. For these reasons, the staff cannot be supportive of the zoning change request and therefore recommends denial.
Thank you. We currently have no comment cards for this item. Is there an applicant present who wishes to speak? No? Okay. So we have no comment cards in support or opposition. Commissioners, are there any questions for staff? If not, I'm looking for a motion. Commissioner Johnson.
I guess I just have a question. There's nobody to represent the proposal or presentation. No, it's a similar situation to what we just voted on, but it seems to me as if somebody should be here to at least talk about it.
I did communicate with the applicant Friday before last, to let them know that we did defer it as they requested and everything. I did not get the impression that they would not be here. So maybe something has come up in the meantime, but I don't have any more information than that.
Can I ask another question? In the report, it mentions that this area had recently had their FLUM designation changed. So, is that correct?
There are some properties very, very close to this property.
I see. Okay.
This property was not included in those that got the FLUM change.
I see. Okay, thank you.
I'd like to ask the staff, this is not on deadline, it can be deferred. On the surface, I certainly don't have a problem with the proposal, but at least the person I think should be here to tell us a little bit more before we vote on it.
The CPC deadline
It is not on deadline. It's not on deadline.
Okay, then I'd like to move to.
Do you have an idea of what the applicant what was the intention of this property? What were they going to develop on this property?
Two-family dwellings. That was their stated reason for wanting to rezone the property.
I guess the only thing I'm saying is, the person didn't give you an idea as to why they would not be here today to.
No, I not only did I not get a why, I never got any indication that they wouldn't be here.
Okay.
But you never know what things come up in people's lives. So.
Yep. Okay.
I would just like to move to defer it. One of the things I would like to know is, whether or not it's going to be 2 stories or 1-story double exactly. And I noticed that there was no opposition to the proposal when the community meeting was held and all. But I would just like to move to defer it if no one has any issues with that.
I would second that motion.
Until the next meeting. Yep.
Okay. So we have a motion on the floor for deferral from Commissioner Johnson, seconded by Commissioner Lund. And could staff repeat the date of that deferral, the date for the next meeting?
February 11th.
So this is a deferral to February 11th. If there's no objection to the deferral, then we will vote our machines. Okay, the item is deferred. Next is zoning docket item 00825.
Zoning docket 00825 is a request for a conditional use to permit the sale of alcoholic beverages in a specialty restaurant in an HU/MU historic urban neighborhood mixed-use district and an EC enhancement corridor design overlay district. The petition site consists of
Excuse me, you mind just moving the mic a little bit closer? Thank you.
Do y'all need me to start over?
Oh, no, if you don't mind.
The petition site consists of one lot of record with one existing multi-tenant 2-story structure occupying the parcel. The applicant is proposing a specialty restaurant, a coffee shop, with the sale of alcoholic beverages. Specialty restaurants are permitted by right in the HU/MU district, but the sale of alcohol in a specialty restaurant is only allowed as a conditional use in this district. Staff's analysis of this and other applications for alcohol beverage sales within the vicinity of a commercial corridor focuses on how alcoholic beverage sales as a land use matter intersect with the zoning objectives in the comprehensive zoning ordinance and the land use goals of the city's master plan. The proposed sale of alcoholic beverages is sensible as it aligns with the commercial purpose of the zoning designation. The sale of alcoholic beverages will not otherwise inherently differ from the sale of other food or drink products at this type of restaurant and can be appropriate if responsibly managed. With that, staff recommends approval of zoning docket 00825, subject to 3 provisos.
Thank you. We have a couple comment cards. One from one of the applicants, Thomas Schwab.
Good morning. Good afternoon. My name is Tom Schwab. I live at 11 Glacier Court. I am the applicant here. I really don't have a lot to offer. We are very excited about this project. We think it will bring a lot of new vitality to the neighborhood. I'm an attorney. I've practiced for over 40 years. I understand the rules and respect the rule of law. This is our residence as well. The second floor is where we reside, so we'll have complete control over the situation at all times. I'd like to answer any questions that anyone might have.
Thank you. Okay, we have a couple more cards. One from, I believe, Samaj Salisbury, and followed by Cherie Teamer.
Hello, I am Samia Salisbury Scott. I am part owner of St. Noor Cafe. My partners and I applied for an alcohol license to promote balanced living at the cafe. We want our patrons to enjoy coffee, tea, and pastries during the morning time while they work, create, or have a professional business meeting. And then at some point in the day, we want them to push the work aside, take a break, and grab a glass of wine, champagne while they relax, unwind, read a book, converse with a friend, or just be. I've lived in New Orleans for almost a decade. My partners are natives of the city. We're very familiar with the culture and the Bywater neighborhood, and we believe also that the alcohol license will help us to mesh well with the neighborhood and the culture.
Thank you. And Cherie Teamer.
Yes. Good afternoon. My name is Cherie Deemer. I am an attorney working with St. Noir LLC on their application. My address is 2661 Gravier Street, Suite B, New Orleans, Louisiana. I just wanted to quickly say that throughout the process, the NPP process, the owners have had really great reception from the neighboring businesses. Several people came in through the meeting, which you can see in the application, and filled out comment cards that were very positive, and they haven't received any negative feedback through email or through the comments, and they're excited to be a partner in this neighborhood and really help keep it growing. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay, that concludes the comment cards in support. There are no comment cards in opposition. Commissioners, are there any questions for the applicant or staff? If not, I'm looking for a motion.
Commissioner Flick will make a motion for approval subject to 3 provisos.
I will second.
We have a motion for approval subject to 3 provisos from Commissioner Flick, seconded by Commissioner Joshi Gupta. If there's no further discussion, we will vote our machines. And the zoning docket is approved. Congratulations. Next is zoning docket item 00925.
Zoning docket 00925 is a request for a zoning change from an SRS suburban single-family residential district to a MU2 high-intensity mixed-use district for properties located at 2410, 2419, 2422, 2423, 23 and 2455 Mar Avenue, as well as 2300 through 2310 Elmwood Park Drive. The applicant is seeking a zoning change to expand existing markets and off-street parking along Mar Avenue and create outdoor amusement and live performance uses. The subject area is comprised of non-continuous lots, where lots to the west and northeast abut a narrow MU1 medium-intensity mixed-use district that is adjacent to the West Bank Expressway. However, all parcels within the subject area are located in the SRS suburban single-family residential district, which does not permit commercial uses or contemplate commercial developments under the RSF post-residential single-family post-war FLUM or future land use designation. As the subject area is inconsistent with the master plan, lacks a history of commercial use, and does not present conditions that generally support mixed-use zoning, staff does not support the proposed zoning change. Staff therefore recommend denial.
Thank you. We have a few comment cards in support. First, from the applicant, Angela Dix, with time ceded by Judith Benson. So you will have a total of 4 minutes.
Good afternoon. How you doing?
Good afternoon.
As a longtime resident of Algiers, I'm committed to the growth and vibrance of our community. I'm writing to request a zoning change from residential to MU2 light commercial for my property, with the goal of enhancing the neighborhood's economic vitality while offering new, safe, recreational opportunities for families and young people. Currently, there are limited options for children and families to engage in fun, wholesome activities in Algiers. By zoning the property as MU2, I will be able to introduce light amusement rides and provide a space for local entertainment such as live music. These additions will serve as an exciting destination for young people in our area and create a positive, family-friendly atmosphere. Additionally, I plan to use the property to support local small businesses by providing affordable commercial space that will encourage entrepreneurship and job creation with the zoning change. With this zoning change, we'll be able to support extra creative activities in the area. Right now, it's already zoned MU1 next door to us, which is directly on side of us, which is a flea market on both sides of the street. So the area is already spot zoned around there for MU1 commercial. We have plenty street vendors that are right now on the streets that are non-permitted, and they're causing kind of traffic jams. So the area where I'm asking to put the new market there is to be able to alleviate some of that traffic off the street so we can take those non-permitted vendors off the street and put them into the new area. I believe this initiative will have a positive impact on Algiers, promoting both economic growth and a safer, more vibrant environment for families. I respectfully request your support in changing the zoning to MU2 so we can move forward with this exciting project. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Ms. Dix, can you just state your name and address for the record, please?
My name is Angela Dix, 1219 Numa Street,
Thank you.
Algiers, Louisiana.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Please. Okay, we have a few cards. Support. Perry Duplessis. Okay. Jason Coleman.
Good afternoon to the commissioners, to staff. Jason Coleman, 600 Jackson Avenue, New Orleans, Louisiana, 70130. I'm in support of the Oakman Market project, the change to the MU2. External factors are that Miss Angela, I've known throughout my life, grew up together in church, and her family, she's a second generation, they own Alexis Chicken on Claiborne. So she's also the owner of the adjacent property, the flea market. So we have somebody that's in business that's trying to create more business in Algiers and give some opportunity for light entertainment for the children, which, if you live in Algiers, I stayed there at 3551 Post Oak Avenue for about a decade. So I know it's in Algiers. I would hope that you would consider this because they already are operating in the vicinity, and it would be just adding to their business plan and their business model to serve more of the community. And being an incubator for small businesses, that's what we always talk about. So I think it strikes all the things that we talk about growing the city. It even increases the property tax. So I understand the staff ruling, and I understand spot zoning, but at the end of the day, are we going to build a better New Orleans? And here's our opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you. Heidi Hickman. That's garbage.
Hello, my name is Heidi Hickman. I live at 1437 North Roman, 70116. I actually came to the market, Dick's Market, about 10 years ago, and I've been coming as a vendor and as just a patron of all the other vendors. So I have seen a lot of growth in the existing market, and I'm very interested to see the opportunity across the street, which is currently a vacant lot. So it would remain a vacant lot if this zoning does not move forward to allow for additional business activity and an expansion of the market. Like I said, as a vendor, it's kind of a nice opportunity to have more space for other vendors and the economic, opportunities that it does afford us as a small vendor looking to grow eventually. And so I would be very, supportive of this change so that we can see a little more growth. And again, I believe there's been question about the spot zoning, but that complete area has other markets. The Dick's Market is not the only market. It's 3 contiguous markets, so it looks like one, but this would be an expansion of that area that already has business activity. So it's not taking away from the neighbors in the sense that they're sort of having business operations outside of the area that, exists with activity. And I think it would create a little more formal space for that activity to happen instead of in the middle of the street where some of the overflow of people who are not connected to the marketplace, any of the markets in that area, they're just showing up on the street. So it would take the city's cooperation as well to support that sort of overflow that's happening unrestricted. And this area, like I said, would not would actually be a great space for more vending because the markets exist. Thank you.
Thank you. And could you just repeat your address, your name and address for the record?
Yes, Heidi Hickman, 1437 North Roman.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I had a question for you.
Yes.
How long have you been a vendor in the space?
So I have been a vendor off and on for the last 10 years, if not a little more. But about 10 years ago, I started vending, and I continue to vend. Also, just with that question, sometimes I can't get a space there because there are so many vendors and they're full.
Right.
And so I know the Dick's business would like to expand to receive more vendors.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Bruce Hinton.
Good morning. I'm Pastor Bruce V. Hinton. I'm at 1220 Lauderdale Drive in Algiers. I'm in support of Angie's operation to do this zoning change, mainly for the reason that in that area there are approximately 85 lots, and they are just lots. There are no homes on those lots. And she owns approximately 25 to 27, or maybe even more, of the lots in the area. And my classmate and I bought 6 of those lots back in 2003 with the intent of developing them because I have a background in construction. Well, over the years, we've found that infrastructure is a problem in that area. And it will cost substantially a lot more money than just building a house. And because all of the other owners, which only amount to approximately 7 or 8 others in the area that owns all 85 of the lots, and she owns approximately close to 30 of the lots. So she's interested in developing the area, but we need some traction. So her flea market that she owns with her family is instrumental in getting some traction for it to become a residential area. She owns 27 to 30 lots. So she's not about to try to defer the building of houses and the development of houses in the area. She's more concerned with helping develop the area. And that's why I support her in this effort, because I think with the other 2, other than herself, there are a total of 3 flea market owners. She's the only one that really does the kind of improvements that enhances the area. And so we're looking forward to developing the area. And with what she's doing, I'm in full support of it because I think she's a very good businesswoman. She and her husband works hard to make sure that the place is upstanding. And I'm impressed with being able to just to come here on her behalf and get before somebody, because we've tried with the city, we've tried with the council people, we've tried with everybody. It's the only place we're getting a little traction, but it's for zoning change, but that's all right too. We'll take that too. Thank you for the time.
Thank you, Pastor Hinton.
I have a question. What's the address of your lots?
2400 Elmwood.
Thank you.
My friend and I bought 6 of them from a classmate. We were classmates together. That's 2400 Elmwood.
Thank you.
Sir, I have a question too. Just because you said something very important about the infrastructure problems, can you say 1 or 2 things on what the infrastructure problems are in this area?
Well, it doesn't have any water. The streets are incomplete. They need to be extended. And there is some electricity in the area, so Entity just have an electrical line in the area, and it needs sewer. And we would, just as a sidebar, we've gone to the Sewage and Water Board. We've tried to see whether or not they would assist in that area, and they claim they don't have the money, and it's necessary for the budget. So that would be an extra cost for the developer to have all of the necessary money. And you can imagine all others have not been successful in undertaking the effort to develop the area. but the idea is to eventually develop it.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. We have one more card from Maxine Francois.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I'm Maxine Francois. I live at 2455 Moore Avenue. I moved, I think, in 22. And I'm Angela. I rent from Angela. I want to address two areas. I attended the meeting that we had a couple of months ago, and there was some people that, well, one of the ladies, she did not want the plans that Angela had for the area. She did not want them, and I was impressed because they did so much on the picture. I know once it would be developed, it would be adding so much positive to the area. I also had heard that there were problems with emergency vehicles coming through the area on weekends to help people. And I'm right there at the beginning of Moore Street. The flea market is my background. And I have never heard or seen any problems with any vehicles not being able to get through. We do have a problem with people, the commissioners, some commissioners, who don't want to pay whatever the flea market price is. So they come in and they just park their car and they pull out their tables and they set up and they're doing very well. Why they don't want to have the backing of Angela, I don't know. We also have problems with people double parking. And Angela has tried to get the police to come there. There's been some instances where they say they could not do anything about the situation. I don't know why. So those are the two issues that I have with and I support Angela. Her mother was my best friend. And I'm happy to be a resident in the area. It's a quiet community. The snow, it just made the area so beautiful.
Thank you, Ms. Francois.
Thank you very much.
That concludes the comment cards in support. Is it someone else who would like to speak in support? You can come up here and speak and then fill out another card. We don't have a card, an additional card. Maybe.
Good afternoon. My name is Angelia Dix, and I'm at 1219 Numa Street. Angela's my mother, and I've been working at a flea market.
Do you mind just sliding to the mic in the middle?
This one?
Yep, and just, yep. There you go.
I have been working at the flea market for over 8 years. I'm in high support of my family's business. The only issue that I've noticed over the years are the non-permitted people who are on the streets blocking traffic. It does cause problems, especially with parking. Customers do come inside the flea market upset because of what they have to go through to even get into the market. So my only thing would be, like my mother's proposition, to be able to expand that area so that we could have more vendors and just clear up some of that congestion. But no, there hadn't been any issues, like Ms. Maxine said, with any form of law enforcement having to get through the market. I will say that much.
Okay, thank you. Do you mind just filling out a comment card? Oh, that's right, we have one. Thank you. Okay, so that concludes the comments in support. We have one card in opposition, and that is Catherine Jackson.
My name is Catherine Jackson. I live at 6,000 Kingston Court, and that's in Algiers, 70131. I own 15 lots on Elmwood. It's 1 block from the flea market. The area is currently zoned as single-family homes, and as Mr. Hinton says, there's an issue with developing the property because of a lack of infrastructure there. But I've noticed, which is troubling to me, that there has been already a lot of field dirt put in on what was formerly vacant lots, even though there has not been a change. I've also noticed that there are shipping containers that are now on what were previously vacant lots. Conditions at the flea market can generally be described as deplorable. It's rodent infested, pest infested, it's a health hazard, it's an eyesore. It consists mainly of shanty buildings and shipping containers that bring nothing positive to the area. The flea market is what you encounter. This is your first view of Algiers, is what you encounter when you come from Jefferson Parish into Orleans Parish. This area is really a good area because it's easy off, easy on for the CCC. You can see the flea market from General de Gaulle. You can see the flea market from the overpass leading from the CCC to General de Gaulle. And it's nothing positive about it. On the opposite side of the street, I like to point out, going from Orleans to Jefferson, what you have are hotels and rumors that there will be more hotels.
Excuse me,
You
sorry.
have a shopping mall.
That's your time. Does any?
You're keeping me to time, but you didn't keep other people to time.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to go ahead and finish.
Okay, can I finish? Okay. On the opposite side of the street, going from Jefferson to Orleans, you have hotels, and you have rumors that there will be more hotels built. There are at least 4 right now. There's shopping malls, there's restaurants, and there's businesses. But coming into Orleans, we have the flea market. My taxes, I've owned that property for 40 years. In the last few years, my taxes have nearly tripled. They've gone from like 400, but my property value has not tripled. Certainly, the flea market has not brought anything to bring value to my property. I'm not opposed to open markets because Gretna, Harvey, and Marrero, or West Rego, I'm not sure which one it is, they all have beautiful open markets. So in all good conscience, I would like to say, sometimes a vacant lot is superior to putting, you already have a parking issue. Sometimes, and then you talk about adding live music. There's people that live in this neighborhood This flea market backs right up to their houses, and they have nice houses because you can tell they take care of their properties. And so in all good conscience, I can't see how the city can allow this to continue or even to expand. It's beyond conscionable to me. And that's all I have to say about it.
Thank you.
I just have a question to the speaker. Is this the only opposition we have?
Yes.
So if those people who live next to the flea market have some issues with it, had some real serious issues with the flea market, they have nice houses that back to the market, don't you think they would have been here to let us know something or hear something from them?
I don't know. They did a lot of times, especially people that are elderly people. They don't like to participate in this kind of stuff. I'm elderly myself. I don't particularly like to participate in it. They don't. And then if they're working, they may not be able to come here at 1:30 in the daytime on a Monday. So I don't know what the motivation is, but I know I've had issues with the flea market for quite some time. I voiced my opinion about that. The last official thing I did relative to it, Christian Palmer, I think her name was the council person, and she told me she couldn't do anything about it because it was grandfathered in. But then almost immediately after she left office, because she was about to leave office then, almost immediately it almost doubled in size. It doesn't say anything good about Orleans Parish. It doesn't say, okay, I'm coming into Orleans from Jefferson, I'm coming through your gateway, I'm coming into your living room, and this is what I get.
Thank you. So that concludes the comment cards in opposition. The applicant, if you'd like to speak to rebut, you will have 2 minutes to do so.
Okay. I understand that there's a recommendation for denial through the staff in reference to spot zoning. Have other markets there, spot zoning going on. And as she's referring to the neighbors who do live there, I have names and numbers, and they've already signed. They don't have a problem with the market. What people need to realize is the front part on Anson Street, that owner's name is Chris Williams. On the right-hand side, that on Berman Highway, that owner's name is Robert Cotton. That's not mine. As you can see at the top on the right-hand side of Berman Highway in the outline, I want to do something nice, just like you see in West Wego, just like you see in Harvey, but I have to have zoning changes, and I have to have the city to be able to work with me. That whole neighborhood, ever since I got there, have my phone number. They have no problem. I know Miss Perry, she lives in the neighborhood. She's backed up to the market, but she's backed up to the market across the street. But you know what? She comes to me and say, oh, if she has a problem, they all can come to me. My market doesn't back up to her. But if she needs help, I'm there to help, and everybody in the neighborhood. Miss Maxine lives next to the market. Miss Kim Jefferson, who lives directly next to the market on the left-hand side, she has my number. She's for it. The young lady who lives on the right-hand side, they're for it. So all the neighbors and the elderly neighbors, we don't have that many elderly neighbors no longer in the neighborhood, but I've knocked on doors. They don't have a problem with what I'm trying to do. I understand Ms. Jackson has lots that she says she's had over 40 years. They're just empty lots that's overgrown with trees. And I get that, I understand. And the lots that my siblings and I have, we'd like to build houses over there. But I also would like to build a neighborhood, a nice open market that you can see from the interstate, because we are the first thing that you see when you come to New Orleans. But my hands are tied when there are 2 markets in front of me, and once I can get a zoning change and get approval, we're in the middle of working on a $5 million project. So I've sent the pictures in, you all see it. That's what we're working on.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can you tell me the spaces in between the lots you're looking to to change? The ones between the gray and the first red, which is
On the right side or
on
the
the
left
on the
side?
left side of Mar.
Okay.
There are two spots. Are those currently residential, or are those used?
Those are residential, but you can enter from Mars Street to get to our side. On the left-hand side, everything in gray,
Yeah.
that's our entire market right there. So we have off-street parking there also. And then on the right-hand side, we want to, for some reason, people want to set up on the street. I have no control of the city because we have called, the neighbors have asked me, I've gone to the Ford City District, I've talked to the quality of life officer. You know, we've done everything we're supposed to do. The eyesore market that she's speaking of is the front. That doesn't belong to me.
Thank you.
One question. What is the hours of operation?
We have vendors that get there in the morning, but typically our shutdown is about 5 o'clock.
Monday through Friday, Saturday?
No, we're Saturday and Sunday only right now. We do have on Wednesday through Sunday, we have 3 vendors that set up. An tire shop that sits in the front on the expressway, they're there 7 days a week. But as far as, like, they have plenty of markets that have live music. We've had it before. Years ago, when we had entertainment over there, things for the kids. But each time you have to go to the city, you have to pay the extra money, and we also have security on our side. The other market do something. And before I do anything, knock on the doors, I'm calling my neighbors, or I'm letting them know that we're doing something. So everybody in that neighborhood has my number.
And the reason for the request for the M2 as opposed to any other zoning is because of the live music or
Because the live music, and again, like we proposed to do a small, kiddie area. And we've gone to different conventions where we can see they're small mobile, so we can have we want to get the kids to be able to come in and not just have to walk around with their parents eating or just shopping. Kids need something to do. There's nothing to do in Algiers. And when I talked to staff, she explained to me, she said, this is the only zoning where you don't have to keep coming back for conditional use, because then we would have to then repay and do a conditional use or keep asking for a permit.
Thank you. Are there any other questions for the applicant or staff? If not, I'm looking for a motion.
I have a question for staff. So staff, this is the most restrictive use that would accommodate the applicant in their request to basically offer the marketplace and also have live music?
It's the most restrictive that does it as a permitted use. The marketplace is allowed as a permitted use in a number of the districts, but the live entertainment and outdoor entertainment elements are what would trigger the conditional use requirement in more restricted zoning districts.
And as a follow-up to that, what would be the zoning classifications where it would be a conditional use?
MU1, C1, C2, C3.
Say again?
MU1 as well as C1, C2, and C3, I believe.
And so at one point the applicant mentioned that MU2 was light commercial, but on the agenda it has MU2 as high-intensity mixed use.
So yeah, MU2 is a mixed-use district that it's designed for a relatively intense, larger scale of development. So multi-story buildings are permissible there.
Can I just ask, what time would the music end? Yes. What time would the live music end?
It wouldn't even go past 6 o'clock. Most of our vendors are already shutting down between 4 and 5, so I don't anticipate anything going that much further. And to double back on the light commercials, because the MU2 is what I was told that was what we needed. But prior to, based on the staff in 1999, all of that area was zoned, it used to be called B2, neighborhood commercial. So at one time, that lot was zoned B2, neighborhood commercial. Once they did the new master plan, it was changed, but it was always, even on the front side, they were C1 at one time, and we were B2. They changed it to MU1, but it was told to me that we needed MU2, so that's why we went with MU2.
Okay, and even though I know it's not in the proposal, would not be in the proposal unless someone puts it in, you're saying the live music would end at 6 o'clock.
Right, and it's not it wouldn't even be a every time thing. It would just be, if there's it's the 4th of July, maybe we want a little live music going. It's nothing. Before, when we had something before and we got the permit from downtown, we were done by 5 o'clock. The neighbors asked the same question, and she was like, when are you? 5 o'clock. We don't even want to be there that late. I'm not even there past 6.
Are there any other questions?
So I guess you wouldn't be looking to have live music every Saturday and Sunday?
No.
This would just be for special events?
It's usually for just special events. We do want to have, the rides for the kids. No, because it was just something to have. So if there's a special event and we would like to go for it, that's what we needed. We put in we'd have the live music in there. But it's mostly because we would like to have the small, I want to do a little kiddie land over there because I want something for kids. We have so many children that come through there and there's nothing for them to do. In years before, we're constantly having to rent out to get somebody to come over, to set up, but if we had our own and our equipment, we've gone to several conventions in Florida and we've priced it, and that's what we would like to do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. If there are no further questions for staff, I'm looking for a motion.
I move for zoning docket 00925 after listening to both the applicant and also the opposition. The one thing that stands out to me, the opposition mentioned the importance of having something that looks welcoming and that they're not necessarily against open markets, but primarily the way that they're managed and run. I think this applicant is doing their due diligence, and then after reviewing the packet and also looking at the proposed future look of the market, I'm going to move for zoning docket 00925 to go against staff recommendation for approval so that this project can move forward.
Is there a second? Commissioner Johnson seconds. Okay. We have a motion against staff's recommendation for approval from Commissioner Stewart, seconded by Commissioner Johnson.
I just wanted to have a discussion.
Yep.
Just want to know if anyone on the commission has any concern for the residential properties that align MAR that are now going to be sort of U-shaped of residential property surrounded by what will now be a separate zoning designation. We talk a lot about spot zones, and obviously, the one on the right feels good, makes sense. On Google Maps, there are definitely residential properties on Mar Avenue, and then as you go further down towards Donner, it's all very much primarily residential. So I think that the question becomes at what point do we stop, and are we taking on too much, and should we consider adjusting it? Just open to discussion.
And after reviewing that too, so we're talking about changing the zoning for those two parcels on Marsh Street, but it actually ends at Elmwood Park. So across from Elmwood Park, it looks like that's where the continuation of your residential residential properties are. So that break stops at Elmwood, which is like across the street, which is actually the operation of the market as well. So it basically just mirrors now what's across the street operating as a market.
Is there any further discussion?
I'm just going to comment, and I'm going to vote against that because I think I'd rather see not the jump all the way to MU2 and a middle zoning like MU1 that would that would allow this development, but based on the use, rather than opening up the door to everything that's included in MU2.
Music portion of it, or you have concerns about the others?
The others too. I hate to see a jump up two or three classifications when her objectives can be reached with a less of a jump.
Right. I mean, I agree with that.
Yeah. Commissioners.
Well, let me just ask a question. If the owner would have a question as to whether or not we would go with a more restrictive approach as opposed to what she is looking for. Which might give us more time to work something out that you could live with as opposed to not getting anything.
So is the question, is it more a question in reference to the music or what we're proposing to do?
I think and Commissioner Johnson, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Commissioner Johnson is asking about the intensity of the zoning currently, like as you discussed, is what you've been recommended in conversations with staff, right, which is MU2. Commissioner Johnson, I believe, is asking, are you amenable to a more restrictive zoning that might be, again, and staff will correct me, MU1 or something more akin to neighborhood commercial than the MU2, which would allow you to meet your goals without us creating a big, intense jump in terms of spot
would
zoning.
that X us out for being able to do like the Kitty Land? The music, I'm not so much as, it's not a big deal, as far as the music goes, because we never, we're respectful of the neighbors, because as she was stating, on the left-hand side, on the right-hand side, that's Square 93. In Square 93, next to us, is Zone MU1. On this side, which is Square 81, it's already zoned on one side of Square 81, MU1. We're still zoned. It's what I'm saying is a spot zoning. So it's not like we're trying to go put a 7-story building up there. It's just that we were told. So there's almost like we're in between there's no in between, you see? But if they want to tell us, hey, if you plan on doing music, can you stop it at this time? I don't have a problem with that at all. I do want to be able to have, if you see in Kenner and all their markets, they're putting things out there for families. They have live music. I don't know their zonings over there, but they all have live music. And there's something for kids. That's what's going to attract them to our area, our market. I want to make it nicer. Yes, and you see in my vision, because I want to stack the containers, I want to be able to stack over there so we can have just the aesthetics and never have to come back from a hurricane each time, because our buildings have been destroyed by the hurricane, and that's why I want to go green with the shipping containers.
Let me
I
ask,
want to ask staff, what is your
I wanted to
recommendation?
clarify something. With the proposed zoning change to MU2, the outdoor live performance would still be a conditional use regardless. The type of live entertainment that could be allowed as a permitted use would have to be indoor. So depending on the way the applicant intends
and what about the overall kiddie land?
outdoor
I mean,
amusement.
I'm trying to find something that accommodates her development. But if it required a conditional use, that would give us the ability to put provisos on it as opposed to a zoning change where it would be permitted.
Outdoor amusement is allowed as a permitted use in MU2, and it would be conditional use in MU1.
Okay.
What are the other uses in MU2 that we would not be happy with if we made this big jumbo MU2?
As far as what the applicant intends to have, it's only the outdoor live performance. Bars would not be allowed either. They are, my bad, they are allowed as a permitted use as well.
What are permitted?
Bars.
Bars, okay. When the applicant came to you for a recommendation, was this the best use that you could find, best designation that you could find for them?
Yes, I don't know, I can't speak for the planner who met with her, but there are no commercial districts that would allow outdoor live performance as a permitted use that would be available. So that would be the most, the less restrictive.
Is there an outdoor live performance permit that can be applied for that can last a few months?
Permit, yes.
And how many months would that last if that was applied for?
It's 12 events per year.
So is that something that they can apply if we have a less
We can apply for that
intense?
regardless of the zoning district.
So,
Okay.
yeah.
I'm just trying to find tools that they can apply for if they want to move forward either way.
Okay. Okay, so currently we have Commissioner Johnson, I just
Well,
want to recognize really quick, we have a motion and a second on the floor.
Yeah, and I will withdraw my motion. I think Commissioner Stieg indicated that he had an issue with the MU2 taking it up to that level, and whether or not we're able to look at a lower level of zoning request in order to accommodate the applicant and not go as high up as the MU2 would take us. Is that your concern, Commissioner?
Yeah, it is. I mean, I would be in favor of MU1, just have reluctance at MU2.
Well, I'll withdraw my motion and just allow, I'll withdraw my second.
I just want to be clear that the applicant can actually create the child Kiddieland proposal that she has in MU1 and apply for a live performance permit through safety and permits if she wants to add on to that as a tool to have live performances.
It would be required, according to staff, it would be required whether it was MU1 or MU2.
In MU1, outdoor, like a Kiddieland type use would be conditional use, not permitted by right.
So you would need to get a permit for the land, but you would be allowed.
Are we allowed to defer so then I can talk to somebody so then we can go over everything? Because it seems like it's not a good understanding, but maybe if they see our business plan and the complete layout of what we would like to do with that part of Algiers, maybe it might make a difference.
Staff, are we on deadline?
No, we're not.
Okay.
I guess I have a question for you. What is it with MU1 that you would not want to move forward with?
So if you see the plan, I've been working on this plan before COVID. We sat down with the banks. It went from a 15 million, we scaled it down some more, to 10 million, we scaled it down to 7. I would like to take the shipping containers and build the market out to make it to where when you see that part of Algiers. So we don't have people saying, oh, it's so dilapidated over there.
Right.
When you see Dick's Jazz Market, you're going to say, I know that, because everything is seen from the interstate, but it has to be seen. And I know when I sat down and, we've been discussing this, I promise you, since 2010 maybe. We've been working on the things that we want to do. It costs money. So we've been working for a while on this. We're doing a little bit at a time. If you saw the way that market looked before we got it, it was overrun. It had burned out cars on the street everywhere. So we've been working on this, and I would like to show what, I showed a portion of what we, because it was, I got last minute on that Friday before the snowstorm. Hey, you got to have this in by 5 o'clock. I didn't know, so I gave what we've been already started working on. But, if I don't know how, what we can send to you guys so you can see. I don't want to have, we can put in an application to have alcohol over there. I don't want to have alcohol over there. I don't care about the alcohol. So if that needs to be in the proviso, I don't have a problem with that. But I would like to show what we would like to do over there so people can see. But I want people to come over there so they can no longer say, oh, I need to go to Harvey, or I need to go to Kenner. I want to come to Algiers because this part of New Orleans is always forgotten about.
Well, and we want them to come to New Orleans and Algiers. And so this can be a long, drawn-out process, as you know. So I think you could get what you may be looking for, and not deferring today is what my suggestion is going to be, because all of a sudden then you're going to have to push it back and push it back. And we'd love to see you back here, but time is money. And so if you could achieve what you wanted with the HUM1, you may be able to get that vote. And that's what I'm trying to see with the Kittyland Entertainment.
So I was told they couldn't. That's the only reason why.
So
it would require a conditional use.
Okay, so you were to be looking for the HUM1, but then Commissioner Stieg thinks that's a little too restrictive, correct?
No, my thinking was that MU2 was...
MU2.
We can't review a plan for a development if it's all permitted. If it's a conditional use, and if we wanted to put provisos like timing or size or whatever, height of containers, and I'm just throwing stuff out. We can only do that if it's a conditional use that comes to it, because if it's permitted, it's permitted.
Right.
And so I'd rather see her be able to do it, but in a classification MU1 that makes it a conditional use, so we can actually review the plan.
So you'd have to do a new application.
Yes.
I'm afraid so. Yeah.
Would Commissioner Stewart be willing to revise his motion?
I believe my motion is died because I lost my second.
Is your motion, would you still make a motion?
Oh, you want me to restate my motion?
Sure.
Okay. Let me go back up. To move against staff recommendation for zoning 0025 for approval.
Witry will second.
No,
No,
the motion as it stands.
That's,
Yeah, the motion as it stands.
We had a healthy discussion,
Yes,
and you
yes,
removed
Okay.
your second.
yes,
You made it, I made a second.
yes.
okay.
For MU2.
So the motion is to go against staff recommendation for MU2.
Yes.
Motion made by Commissioner Stewart, seconded by Commissioner Witry. We've had discussion. If there are any final questions.
No, let's vote.
I just have a question. Are we on the same page? You understand where we're headed here? Okay, let's roll.
Okay, if there's no further discussion, we will vote our machines. Okay, so the motion against staff recommendation for approval of
Say no?
MU2 moves forward.
Does it move forward still if you would know? Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Okay, congratulations.
Good luck.
Okay. Next is zoning docket item 01025.
I wanted her to realize I'm not against.
Zoning docket 01025 is a request for a conditional use to permit a construction and demolition debris recycling facility at an H1 heavy industrial district. The applicant proposing adding a metal recycling area to a lot that currently stores commercial trucks, dumpsters, and stores cardboard, plastic, and metal recyclables before they are transported. Safety and permits has designated the proposed use as a construction or demolition debris facility, debris recycling facility, which are conditional uses in the H1 district. The H1 district is intended to provide for industrial operations of all types, which are higher intensity manufacturing, warehouse, and storage uses, such as this application. Staff finds the application is consistent with the purpose of the H1 district. Additionally, the proposal meets most standards of Article 20, Section 20.3.p that were created to ensure that development in HI districts implemented appropriate design and development for the protection of the public interest in surrounding property and persons. While the application meets or could meet most standards, the standard requiring a minimum lot size of 5 acres for construction or demolition debris recycling facilities needs to be waived due to the size of the lot being pre-existing. Given all these factors, staff recommends approval of this application subject to 1 waiver and 4 provisos.
Yay. Thank you. We currently have no comment cards in support or opposition of this item. Is there anybody here to speak? Okay. Are there any questions from the commission to the staff?
Mr. Chairman, I believe the gentleman there raised his hand.
I want to say I saw him.
You don't want to speak? Okay.
Okay. Are there any questions for staff? If not, I'm looking for a motion.
Mr. Chairman and members of the commission, I would move approval of the staff recommendation with the waiver and the 4 provisos.
Commissioner Flickel, second.
Okay, we have a motion for approval subject to 1 waiver and 4 provisos by Commissioner Johnson, seconded by Commissioner Flitt. If there's no further discussion, we'll vote our machines. And the zoning docket is approved. Okay. Next is the extension request for subdivision docket 12923. And I just want to note for the record that Commissioner Stieg has recused himself from the zoning docket.
This is a consideration of a request to extend the period in which final approval of this subdivision must be granted. It is a major subdivision for the River District property granted in 2023. It involves not only the creation of a number of lots, but also the rights-of-way and street infrastructure that goes along with that. The applicant's representative can speak to this further, but essentially there have been, the approval of construction of the right-of-way has been an ongoing process that is, certainly time-consuming, and so an extension is sought to allow additional time to complete that process.
Okay. Thank you. We have a comment card representing the applicant, Mr. Todd James.
All right, thank you. Todd James with Broadmoor, but on behalf of River District and the Convention Center, who's actually the owners of the property. But good afternoon. Thank you guys for your time. I'm going to keep it pretty brief. Much to what Mr. Kroll spoke to, we've been working pretty diligently with multiple city departments as we work through the finalization of this package. I will state, at least as of today, I know that the resub basically has been finalized and we've been able to record that document. So I believe that this is more administrative because we went well past the deadline, which was at the end of the year in order for the time frame to be fulfilled. So we're already at that finish line. This just helps us to make sure that we have everything in order to keep everything going seamlessly on the project.
Thank you. There are no other comment cards, so are there any questions for Mr. James or staff? If not, I'm looking for a motion.
I'll move for approval of the extension request for subdivision docket 12923 as recommended by staff.
I second.
Okay. We have a motion for approval of the extension from Commissioner Lund, seconded by Commissioner Joshi Gupta. Are there any questions? Any further discussion? Not, we'll vote our machine. And the extension request is approved. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Next is the Canal Street Study, Progress Report, and Analysis of Current Issues.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good afternoon, Commissioners. I'll be presenting today the preliminary report for the updated Canal Street Study. This study, many of you remember from 2018, the staff did a pretty comprehensive study on Canal Street, analyzing its issues from retail, transportation, upper floor occupancy, and so on and so forth. So we have been tasked later, I guess September of last year, to report on the progress of the recommendations for that study and to identify any new recommendations that we might develop through our conversations with stakeholders and the further research that we'll do. So what I'll do is just run through this presentation very quickly. This presentation is basically serves as a notification of the ongoing study. Of course, if anyone from the public is here to speak, they'll have an opportunity to do that. But many times these presentations allow, again, that notification, and then we will begin receiving emails and requests for meetings, which is one of the main purposes.
Awesome.
And of course, feedback from the commission should you like to add any topics that you would like further researched. So I believe I just explained this first point in the first slide, but this staff presentation is to show you again the study boundaries, the scope of the City Council motion, what we would like to include in the completed study, our proposed timeline, and how the public can provide input. This next slide shows the study boundaries, generally from Claiborne Avenue to the Mississippi River. This is the same boundaries as were delineated in 2018. A quick summary of the motion that requested the study. It was motion M24500. Just a few quick bullet points on the actual request. First was to summarize previous studies on the improvement of Canal Street in the study boundary. We did a very deep dive into this the first time around 5 years ago, or 7 years ago now. So we'll provide, a brief synopsis of what we found in that study, and then we'll move on to highlighting the progress of the recommendations that we pulled out from that study. We've begun meeting with city departments and agencies to determine what recommendations have gained traction in terms of implementation, and to discuss barriers for implementation. Other items that we have been tasked with reporting on is gaps in knowledge and resources, what might be needed in order to implement some of the recommendations, identify opportunity sites for commercial and residential use, study transportation considerations, provide recommendations for regulatory or policy initiatives, and identify strategies for revitalization of major corridors in other cities that could be utilized for Canal Street. So this slide in front of you right now is kind of a general outline of the study that we're working off of, which is, that background and playing history that I just mentioned, updating the existing conditions from 7 years ago, which included land use and other demographic information. Of course, a summary table of the progress of those recommendations from the previous study, outlining opportunity sites, the current development and zoning entitlements on those sites, the history of those and the opportunity that exists. Of course, incorporating public comment, analysis of barriers to implementation, and then ultimately our recommendations. Our study timeline is pretty brief at this point. Obviously today we are giving this preliminary presentation and actually plan to submit a final draft to you all at the end of March at your second meeting. So March 25th, about 2 months from now, is what we expect the timeline to be. And this is our final slide, but has some of the most important information, I believe, which is how the public can provide public input. We've identified March 17th at 5 p.m., which is a Monday, as the deadline for written comments. We accept comments via email at cpcinfo@nola.gov and mailed or hand-delivered to our offices on the 7th floor of City Hall. And of course, the public, should they be interested in commenting on the draft study, can attend the CPC regular hearing on March 25th at 1:30 p.m. And if the commission has any comments or would like to see anything specific incorporated into the report, please let us know, whether here or down the road. Whenever you have any ideas, we'd be happy to look into any issues that you've identified.
Thank you. I have one comment. In light of the recent issues we've had across the city with buildings structurally failing, whether due to neglect or age, or both, I think it'd be worth highlighting in the study, at least in terms of like remediation or, because all of these buildings are effectively connected, right, via party wall. So certainly I think that would play a role in any sort of revitalization effort.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Thank you.
Yeah, it would be great in a similar way to have just a coding system. Like I've done that before, where we've basically been able to rank buildings based upon their current structure, like structural integrity from the outside. Obviously, you can't see every building. Are there any other questions?
I have a question about, so it was noted in the report before and commented often that these buildings would be really a good use for so much space located there is short-term rental. How do the current laws affect how you can even report? I mean, do you just note that the current laws may not allow for what may be a good use there? Or do you address that in a study?
We will address that in the study. I think in particular, short-term rentals, we identified that as a use that, we thought might incentivize the actual occupancy of those upper floors. And we've found that to be the case. Just over the last 5 years, there have been even numerous media reports on successful renovations and the combination of buildings, upper floors of buildings to establish short-term rentals. But I think this study gives us an opportunity to do a little bit deeper of a dive into those topics. One thing that we didn't really nail down and address were some of the building code issues that we've heard have been an issue for renovations, especially of interior buildings with only single points of access and egress. So I think this is a great opportunity not only to report on progress of recommendations, but also perhaps provide a little more detail on the recommendations that we put forward 7 years ago.
Could you remind me, what would the current law allow for the zoning there?
The current law in terms of short-term rentals?
Yeah.
So the current law does actually carve out an exemption for short-term rentals on Canal Street.
Oh, okay.
So that was a specific recommendation that we put forward in that first study. Mm-hmm. I say first study, but this street's been studied 100 times.
Yeah.
But our study in 2018, and there was legislation that was adopted that allows short-term rentals along Canal Street.
And just from my knowledge, so when you are preparing a study like this, if the current law would not allow a recommendation, you would just note that in the study? I mean, there's nothing that precludes you from putting in the study something that would require a change.
Oh no, and I think that we certainly should. If there are legislative actions that need to happen, then
you just make the recommendation part of your study.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So.
Thanks.
Can I add on to that, just with respect to the specific issue of short-term rentals? One, there's a citywide IZD for commercial short-term rentals. So the current law is really none are allowed. The underlying regulations allow for them. But we're going to be diving even deeper into that issue with our transient lodging study, which I'm happy to say we had our kickoff meeting with the contractor this week. Contract signed, we're moving forward on that, and we'll be addressing that exact issue.
Thank you.
About how long do you anticipate that study for that's ready?
That's a good question, because we're within a year of an election, but I think 6 to 9 months is what we're looking at as a tentative timeline. Once we get into it, that could change, but that's kind of what we're thinking.
Thanks.
I wanted to ask if part of your study, are you doing any kind of a pedestrian experience and thinking about that along the corridor? Because of course it's paved, but at the same time I do feel cars are given so much advantage still on Canal Street that it's not really a pedestrian experience.
Right. And we are, and that's multi-layered too, right? I mean, so, if you are considering pedestrian experience, you think quality life, you're thinking about just making sure that everything is in good repair, from the sidewalks to the travel lanes. Also rethinking how curb uses are managed, traffic is diverted, or how it moves through the area, signage for buildings, vegetation, landscaping, all of that stuff. So we have actually already met with the Department of Public Works on this very issue earlier on in December. Obviously, the events of New Year's Eve, kind of changed the calculus and some of the urgency around this, but we also plan to reach out to some of our other partner agencies like Parks and Parkways. We've started conversations with the Downtown Development District, who are clearly, have their finger on the pulse of what's happening on the street, and other agencies that have jurisdiction in that right of way. So,
thank you.
I would like you to look into cities, especially like Chicago, or that have done such a beautiful job of really creating that landscape barrier between pedestrians and traffic. And it's really successful, so I'm just thinking of that as an example while you're doing that.
Certainly will.
And I'd add Detroit to that list too.
Yeah, Detroit. Okay. And just the street vendors too, just how they're playing into this, or they're just a part of the landscape. So I think that should actually be considered, as well as you nailed it with the Downtown Development District, just getting that, like how many people have applied for the lighting grants. I mean, they have a lot of grants that I think we could get data from on facade grants, like what are people actually applying for that are on Canal Street that we may not be privy to. I think that would be helpful to get some real live data on what our businesses on Canal Street are actually wanting. And I mean, I've always been trying to get the preservation plan that was a component of the master plan, and if we could actually implement some components of that into this, I would love to see that in my tenure here on this commission.
Yes, thank you.
You might have already mentioned it while I was out, but exactly what role are the businesses playing, and how involved are they in this process that we're going to be going through, the private sector businesses? And I'm asking that question because I know we brought up something about the cars on Canal Street. I can remember as a young person, that was so much a part of the joy. At night, we would just get in a car and drive down Canal Street, and just that experience coming from the Ninth Ward to drive down Canal Street at night was just such a tremendous experience because of the lighting and the buildings, and that was an experience within itself to do that. and the buildings are just so different. It seems like the maintenance and the upkeep and the pride that the owners have in their buildings just seems like it has just completely changed. So how engaged and to what extent are they bought into, have they bought into this process that we're going through in looking at Canal Street from the river to Claiborne Avenue?
And we will engage them just as we did in 2018. We met individually with some of the major property owners on the street. There are a number of property owners that own, numerous buildings on Canal Street. We met with the hotel managers. We met with, there was a business organization that met back in that time that was organized. But I think, to your point, it's having their buy-in is going to be critical, just as with, honestly, any of the work that we do, especially the long-range planning work, is for them, come second meeting in March, that we have the support of the property owners, the business owners on that street to say the plan outlined here that your staff is putting forth is something that we believe in and that we would like to see done. So to the extent that we can kind of pull that vision together and put forth recommendations that are supported by people on the street, that's what we'd like to do.
Yeah, I just think that's going to be such a crucial aspect of it. And I know, like the Rubensteins, they've always consistently had pride and interest in the viability of Canal Street, but I would assume some of these property owners are from out of state, out of town, and it just feels and looks different from the way it used to. And of course, we know that Canal Street is an entirely different venue from what it was years ago. But it seems to me like the private sector can do more than they're doing to help Canal Street become the kind of destination that it could be and similar to what it used to be.
I just want to follow up on that vein because I think it's, something that happens in European cities during the summer is the light festivals at night, and they're highlighting historic buildings on their major, avenues and streets. And this could be something free that families could come to instead of maybe driving to Canal Street, but getting there at night and walking and seeing the light festivals during the city, just to be something proud outside of the French Quarter. I mean, it's the beginning, it's the gateway as we want to think about it. So just as we're thinking of zoning and planning and bringing people together in community and preservation long term, I know we have a long list of things that we can do in the city, but it would be really cool to think about that
like
long term.
the land use and programming.
The land use component of it, right.
So just to kind of follow up on what everyone has been saying, the reason why we ended up getting this request to do an update of the 2018 plan is in large part because there is a entity that has been created, and I can't remember the exact name, but it's an entity that is dedicated to revitalizing Canal Street. And it is working with a significant number of the property owners and business owners along Canal Street. It's also planning the types of events that you're talking about, as far as having destination events that are free to the public. And I think you're probably going to see some roll out very soon. I think they have one planned for the Jazz Fest time where they're going to be decorating facades of buildings. But we are working very closely with them. They have a regular meeting. I think the next one is this Friday. We'll be attending that, giving them an update, getting feedback from them as well.
Yeah, and Bob, it's like the Fairmont Hotel during the holidays, during Christmas. They go out of their way to really do something special and just to walk through that lobby and experience that. If we can get more businesses to do something similar to that, something, and not just during the holidays and not just during Jazz Festival, but all the time, year round. I think that would just make such a big difference, not just for the tourists, but for the locals also. Local people during Christmas and during the holidays go to the to the Roosevelt now to experience what they do, and that's a business that has taken pride in doing that, and they do it every year. So let's try to encourage more of these property owners to do something similar to that on a year-round basis.
The issue is the private property owners along Canal Street are not necessarily, the businesses right now are not necessarily the businesses that are going to have the decorations. And, so I think we just need to find tools in our toolbox of how can we use our regulations to save those facades from being, taken over by these unsavory businesses. And how can we create some sort of incentive for them to retreat from our beautiful facades, if there is any way to do that.
Thank you. A quick question for our director. Do we need to vote on this, or is this just the hearing portion and then we'll come back and, okay. Right. Thank you, and I'll say on behalf of the commission, we're all looking forward to what comes out in the study. And in the meantime, if you need us, you know where to find us. Thank you.
I'll point out that Gentleman has been very patiently waiting in the audience from the DDD. If he wants to speak, I think he should be given an opportunity.
Oh, great. Okay. Ms. Renee.
Good afternoon. I didn't prepare anything. My name is Renee Pastrek, representing Downtown Development District. We're very excited about this study. Just here to hear your comments. Those are some great comments. And we look forward to working with you all further.
Thank you. Good to see you. Okay. Thank you. Yep. So the next item and last item of business is subdivision ratifications.
And still the Brownfields? Yeah, okay. There's a Brownfields presentation up next.
Yeah, there's one more.
Wait, what is that? Oh, it's in the list. My apologies. Next is our CPC Brownfields Program 2024 Year in Review presentation.
Good afternoon.
I made copies of this.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. It's my absolute pleasure to present for you today. For those of you who have not met personally, I am Carrie Gacho, Brownfields Program Director, and this is the newest member of our team, our graduate urban planning intern, Dylan White.
I'm Dylan White. I am a graduate student at the University of New Orleans currently, and I am an alumni of Dillard University, and also I am a proud member of the Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated, the Theta Sigma chapter at Dillard University.
Thank you very much. We're very happy that you can join us. We'll be here for the whole year. I'm here to elaborate on the progress of the City Planning Commission's Brownfield program, especially the Year in Review 2024. Today I'll provide a brief overview of project accomplishments, covering a variety of significant priority sites in Orleans Parish, currently being supported by the City Planning Commission Brownfield program. Our continued goal is to provide support for currently abandoned and derelict priority projects in Orleans Parish, both raw land and structures, stalled due to the high costs for environmental assessment and remediation. Although this presentation focuses on 2024, it is worth noting that in the last 2.5 years, we've been dedicated to coordinating as much funding as possible into this program with grant applications and coordinated efforts through the state and EPA. The goal? To create positive environmental impacts providing clean land and healthy structures for the health of our residents, and to spur further development, bringing sites back into commerce. Biden's infrastructure bill has allowed for the highest levels of funding for brownfield assessment, remediation, and development in history. And we have successfully applied for a large portion of it to serve Orleans Parish. It has been the goal of our program to focus on a strategic plan and coordinate multi-departmentally on priority projects with a determined end use, a development plan, and community benefits all identified. Knowing that this funding would have an end date, we applied for as much as possible. During this presentation, I will discuss a few of the significant legacy sites currently underway, but there are over a dozen smaller alternate sites that have been assessed through funding from our program as well. Before we move on, I would like to explain this initial image on the screen. A notorious remediated brownfield site we all know, the New Orleans Riverwalk, completed years ago, but was once a highly contaminated brownfield site. Next slide. So what is a brownfield? According to the EPA, the term brownfield site means real property, the expansion, redevelopment, or reuse of which may be complicated by the presence or potential presence of a hazardous substance, pollutant, or contaminant. Potential presence is highlighted here because we are not sure if a brownfield is a brownfield until these assessments take place. Cleaning up and reinvesting in these properties protects the environment, reduces blight, and takes development pressures off green spaces and working lands. It is estimated that there are more than 450,000 brownfield sites in the U.S. alone. That number has been recently shown to be an underestimate. The photos show 3 examples of brownfield sites. The largest picture to the left, Market Street Power Plant, part of the upcoming River District. Top right, an abandoned gas station on the demolition list at the Naval Support Activity Center East Bay Complex. And bottom right, a former auto factory in Detroit. I should mention, working in Detroit for over a decade, the many similarities between New Orleans and Detroit. Both cities are post-industrial and historic, being settled within a few years of one another in the early 1700s. Both cities carry a history of pollution left behind by heavy industrial uses, abandonment, and former disinvestment. Both cities are filled with historically significant architecture and culturally significant surrounds. With Detroit going through a major renaissance in the last 15 years, I continue to learn from that experience and bridge that connection, implementing strategies proven successful in Detroit here in New Orleans. I'd like to touch upon process and the end game of the funds we are bringing in. On this slide, you will notice the images include a notorious former dump and remediated brownfield site, the Fly. Obviously, a notoriously successful brownfield redevelopment used for multiple recreation and group sport activities, the process to a completed brownfield development site includes 3 phases. Phase 1. A Phase 1 ESA includes site identification, planning, and applying for EPA or LDEQ approval to move forward. Approval is based on community benefits, what end use is appropriate, and a logical development plan. Once approved, we request access through the City of New Orleans Property Management Department, set up a schedule, meet the environmental contractors on the site where they perform a Phase 1. A Phase 1 is basically a visual assessment of the site to see if there are obvious contaminants such as asbestos tiles or obvious lead paint. Phase 1 also includes a robust history of the property over time. Using Sanborn maps, assessor office data, and other research criteria, the property's history can show potential for contaminants in underground storage tanks. An example, if a Sanborn map shows a former gas station or machinist shop, etc., historically on the site in question, more assessment and sampling will be needed, and possibly an underground storage tank assessment as well, to potentially pull or cap these tanks for development to move forward. If more assessment is needed, movement into Phase 2 is the next step. Next slide. This image shows a site currently undergoing Phase 2. Remediation coordinated by this program, Touro Shakespeare, located in Old Algiers, which we will discuss in more detail later in the presentation. The Phase 2 environmental site assessment includes full sampling of the site in question and is a lengthier process. Sampling includes boring for soil, samples of paint chips, floor and ceiling tiles, windows, and roof mastic, among others. These samples are then sent to a third-party lab to be analyzed for contamination. Once results are in, the environmental contractor puts together a comprehensive report showing levels of contamination, areas of concern, and a basic roadmap for remediation needs. Next slide. Benefits of brownfield remediation. This image shows the facade of Touro Shakespeare, boarded and contained currently while it goes through the Phase 2 assessment process. The benefits include, but are not limited to, improved water quality, and the possibility for infiltration in surrounding areas from stormwater runoff and soil quality. It spurs development, especially for historically vacant sites like Toro Shakespeare that have been abandoned for decades and carry a hefty environmental cost, contributing to historic preservation and revitalizing of significant structures. Next slide. Now we can discuss some of the projects currently underway. The first is supporting the River District and connecting between Market Street Power Plant and the Convention Center. Next slide. The Market Street Power Plant has already gone through remediation when I started this program, but the areas that needed assessment and remediation includes the empty parcels that connect Market Street Power Plant to the Convention Center. We submitted applications with the state and spoke with the developers, and we were approved to move forward. Phase 1 and Phase 2 are already complete, and when you pass by this area on Chapatulas, you will see the workers completing the remediation process currently. Here are a couple photos, the larger photo on the left showing the historic photo of the power plant, the sole source of power in New Orleans until the late 50s, and the other photo showing the interior of the plant currently and the proximity to the water and the associated wharves. Next slide. The largest site we are working on, and the most complex, single application to the EPA, is the former Naval Support Activity Center in the East Bank. Built in 1919 and sitting on a 23-acre parcel with 3 reinforced concrete buildings, ancillary outbuildings, an abandoned gas station, and ample vacant land. The images shown include a 1950s photo, far left, when the site was at full capacity, and the site currently. Situated on the Mississippi River Canal, this site has the opportunity to become a large legacy project, providing needed housing, retail, grocery, and recreational spaces for residents. CPC Brownfields program was awarded a $2 million grant and funding, and so far 2 of the 3 buildings for remediation. With Larry Massey's support, we developed and posted an RFP for services, and an environmental contractor was selected. We are finalizing the contract, and work will be beginning in the next few months. Next slide. Located uptown on Loyola, it is the long-abandoned Sophie Gumbel House, built in 1917. Originally as a mental health facility for children, this historically significant structure was donated to the city and will be used for behavioral, mental, and physical health services for children. The images show the structure in current condition. City Planning Commission Brownfields program provided Phase 1 and Phase 2 services, which are now complete, leading to the next steps of remediation and redevelopment. Next slide, please. Municipal Auditorium, an Art Deco masterpiece. The Municipal Auditorium was built in 1930 to serve as an event space for graduation ceremonies, Mardi Gras balls, and other important events. Municipal is located inside the culturally significant Congo Square at Louis Armstrong Park. Working with Capital Projects and the A&E teams at Verge Rome Architects, we supported full funding of the Phase 1, 2, as well as a $250,000 remediation grant for this priority project. Next slide, please. Here is the auditorium upon completion in 1930 on the right, and the current condition of the auditorium. You'll notice on both photos the Art Deco chandeliers that still remain inside this building. Next slide. Toro Shakespeare. Built in 1927 as an elderly care facility, abandoned for decades, this site contains significant architectural detail and sits on a 5-acre lot. We have coordinated funding for Phase 1 and Phase 2, both complete, and the developers are planning a 23-room affordable elderly care facility in the future years. Next slide, please. Interior photos, as is, showing 9x9 asbestos-containing tiles on the floor and ceiling. Middle photo showing the expanse of the front-facing facade. Next slide, please. Just a couple of my favorite photos showing interior chapel in current condition and an exterior courtyard, and beautiful fountain elements showing the elaborate detail and the architectural significance of this site. Next slide, please. Lastly, here are some national economic success factors. Dollars leverage, $33.6 billion nationally. Jobs leverage, 170,000 plus, showing an increase in property values of 5 to 15.2% after brownfield revitalization takes place. 10.3 jobs leverage per every $100,000 of EPA funding brought in, and local governments generating 29 to 97 million in additional tax revenues in the first year after cleanup of brownfield sites. Next slide, please. The benefits of brownfield renovation, both environmentally and economically, are significant. I hope this presentation has shown some of the progress and movement forward for the CPC Brownfields program, and I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you for an amazing presentation. Are there any questions or comments?
Wow, bravo. I'm so glad this program's getting going. You're doing a great job. And one quick question. Is it possible that you could get through phase one and not need to go to phase two?
Absolutely.
And then you still can be awarded the funds even though it wasn't, it's not dependent upon how.
Sure. Yeah, phase one is the first glimpse. So if you go through the phase one and the environmental contractors come out, they assess the site visually, they see that there's no asbestos or lead that they can see. They do a background check of what's historically been on that site over the years. If they find something like a gas station or a mechanic shop, a dry cleaner, something that is definitely associated with contamination on site, they'll move forward immediately to a phase two. If there's nothing on record historically or in the Sanborn maps that there's anything to be concerned with, and the visual assessment of the site shows nothing of concern, you can move forward with remediation right after that. There's actually been a couple of sites, one in particular, Duncan Plaza, right across the street. They're planning to move that into the new city hall at some point. We've done the phase one assessment. It also protects liability. So say the city is bringing in a property, like Duncan Plaza, they were doing a trade. We have to make sure the phase one is done to protect liability, even if there's contamination on site. It shows that the contamination was there beforehand, and the city will not be responsible for that contamination moving forward, and it opens up the city to be able to apply for alternate funding. So that can be the last step. So Duncan Plaza, the results came back. Nothing was found on site as far as contamination. No need to move to phase two. The site is clean.
So it's a brownfield site, but with limited contamination.
It's actually found no contamination.
No
over standard.
Yeah, okay.
Over standard. Yeah, there's standards. If they're below standards that are deemed from the federal government and the state, then we can move on with development without moving to a phase two or remediation.
Okay, and then are there any pending federal funds for any of these projects?
Yes.
Which ones, or how much, and how much?
Well, the funds, a lot of the funds that have come in so far, since we're just starting a new year, are already allocated through the state. So I'm not sure how that's going to work out with the new situation that we're dealing with currently. The $2 million grant that we brought in from the federal government, we'll find out what happens tomorrow.
Tomorrow? The $2 million for which project? Is it the River District?
Well, for the NSA complex, we applied directly to the EPA for the funds.
Okay.
So now we're trying to figure out if the funds are just on pause. They haven't come into the city because the work hasn't started, but they're already allocated. So, I mean, it's to be determined. This is an interesting situation we're in right now.
And will you continue, you will continue your work the same as you have before, regardless of how the government, federal government.
I'm hoping to. We might have to. We're looking at a plan B, which is we have some funds that are available that are in-house and some funds that we're trying to bring back into our program from a former brownfield project that didn't move forward. And so we're working on bringing those funds back in so that we can independently still move forward with the assessments of the properties.
Okay.
Irregardless of the funding.
And there's no indication so far how LDEQ is going to, what stand they're going to take with regard to money they received for projects.
Yeah, also to be determined.
Okay.
Yeah. Great questions, though.
Thanks. Thank you so much. Okay. The last item of business is our subdivision ratification.
And there's a list in your packet that are awaiting your ratification.
Okay. Looking for a motion.
Make a motion to approve subdivision ratifications.
Okay, we have a motion for approval of subdivision ratifications by Commissioner Flick, seconded by Commissioner Witry. Is there any further discussion? If not, we'll vote our machines. And our subdivisions are ratified. I think Commissioner Johnson had to step out for a second. That concludes today's business. I'm looking for a motion to adjourn. Commissioner Witcher makes a motion to adjourn. Is there a second? Commissioner, I'll give it to Commissioner Londo. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you.